Single mom's incredible act to outsmart her ex revealed a hidden CEO boss. A touching twist? Sarah clutched the stack of papers, her heart racing as she stood outside the school auditorium. The chill of the autumn air bit through her thin cardigan, an unwelcome contrast to the warmth that clung to the memories of her daughter. Emily's laughter echoing in her mind. She took a deep breath, trying to silence the growing doubt gnawing at her belly. What was she doing here? This was not a place she wanted to be, especially not with her ex-husband, Daniel, parading his new girlfriend like a trophy. But Emily had begged her, and her love for her daughter outweighed her discomfort. As the evening wore on, Sarah unwittingly fell into a pit of tension. Daniel's dismissive laughter cut through the room like a knife when he caught sight of her and scoffed at her ambition of returning to college while juggling 2 jobs. Some people are dreamers, Sarah, he taunted, his voice dripping with sarcasm. You should know your place. The laughter and whispers from other parents stung her like icy shards, and with each heartless word, she felt the pressure mounting within, like a brewing storm. With emotions swirling, she hesitated, balancing the weight of her current life against the dreams she fought so hard to reclaim. Did he really think she would bow down quietly? No, she wouldn't let him stifle her dreams, nor spiral her into that dark hole of self-doubt. And yet, fear gripped her, the fear of failure in front of everyone, of jeopardizing Emily's stability. Before we continue, Sarah pulled in a shaky breath, gathering her courage. I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. That fleeting moment of clarity made her realize the power of her voice. With newfound resolve, she strode to the front, facing Daniel with defiance. You underestimate me, she said, each word powerful, resonating amidst the stunned silence that followed. She didn't just come to defend herself. She stood not only for her dreams, but for every woman who dared to chase theirs. The impact of her words filled the room, met with startled gasps and murmurs. But even the elevated pulse of adrenaline couldn't drown out the rising dread that lingered. Just then, Mr. Thompson, a retired CEO in the back, stepped forward, a look of respect entwined in his gaze. His offer to mentor her coiled around her mind, hinting at a chance for a better life. Yet, as Sarah left the auditorium with a mix of hope and hesitation, an unexpected phone call hummed in her pocket. She fished out her phone, heart pounding again, anticipation thrumming through her veins. Could be about her latest shift, or worse, it could shake the very foundation she fought so hard to build. Would it be her ex trying to rope her back into his world? Uncertainty twisted in her gut. Her hand trembled as she stared at the screen, her heart racing at the possibilities. What would this call bring? Something that might herald a new beginning, or maybe tear everything she had worked for apart. With a flick of her thumb, Sarah answered the call, each ring building the tension inside her chest. Hello? Her voice shook slightly, betraying the nerves that swirled relentlessly. There was a pause on the other end, as if the caller was weighing their words carefully. Sarah, it's Mrs. Jenkins from the office. I wanted to talk to you about a potential promotion. The voice buzzed, excitement permeating the airwaves. You've been doing remarkable work, and the management is considering you for the team lead position. We believe you've demonstrated real potential. A rush of disbelief coursed through her. The grueling long nights spent juggling her responsibilities, 2 jobs, Emily, and her studies began to feel like they were finally paying off. Really? She blurted out, not hiding the surprise in her voice. Her mind raced back to the late nights spent exhausted and overwhelmed, but determined to make a better life for herself and Emily. Yes, Mrs. Jenkins replied, but it would require more commitment. We need someone who can lead projects, manage a team, and balance deadlines. It's not an easy role. Are you up for the challenge? The gravity of it clenched her stomach again. Was she truly ready for this? Sarah opened her mouth to respond, uncertainty creeping in because she knew how much was at stake. If she accepted this position, she would have to step outside the comforts of her previous routine, which, although chaotic, was predictable. Suddenly, memories of Daniel's derisive laughter floated through her mind. He would dismiss her again, wouldn't he? You should know your place. The sting of those words still smarted, but fighting against his smirk was part of the battle for her self-worth. She paused, weighing the decision against her aspirations. I'm honored you believe in me, she managed to say, but I need to think about it. Of course, take your time, Mrs. Jenkins said, but I would recommend you think about your potential and how far you've already come. Hanging up, Sarah felt a cascade of emotions. Hope mingled with dread clouded her thoughts. Part of her yearned for this opportunity, to be the woman she always envisioned, the strong, determined individual who wouldn't back down in the face of adversity. But another part whispered doubts, warning her against the stress of balancing new responsibilities while ensuring Emily's needs were met as the cold air bit at her skin. She stepped into a nearby coffee shop, hoping the steam of fresh brew would wrap her in warmth, a comfort against the chill of uncertainty. Sitting at a corner table, she took out her notebook, scribbling down thoughts about the promotion and what it might mean for her future. Would this lead to something bigger, possibly even fulfilling her dreams she had put on the back burner for Emily's sake? Could she be a role model who shows her daughter that ambition is not a dirty word? The night turned quiet outside as people bustled in and out, their laughter and chatter blurring into a comfortable white noise that enveloped her. Sarah sipped her coffee and stared at her pages filled with plans, stray thoughts, and possibilities. With each stroke of her pen, her confidence grew, solidifying the realization that she was capable of more than merely surviving. She could thrive. As she closed her notebook, satisfaction flooded through her. But moments later, her phone buzzed again, breaking through her brief state of clarity. It was a message from Daniel, something unexpected and insidious creeping into her sanctuary. Hope you're not letting dreams cloud your judgment. Remember, it's never too late to come back to reality. Don't make me come over. Sarah's heart dropped, and a flicker of fear ignited in her chest. It was time to choose. Would she let his threats dictate her future? Or would she stand firm, moving forward toward what she truly desired? It was not just about career advancement. It was about reclaiming her identity, who she was beyond being a single mother, a worker, a victim of her past. Her fingers hovered over the screen, every heartbeat resonating like a drum. The time had come to confront not just Daniel, but the fears that still bound her. This was the beginning of a new chapter, and she would either rise or fall. What would her answer be? A determined glint sparked in her eye, and she reminded herself, dreams were worth fighting for, especially the ones meant to reshape her life. The moment hung in the air, heavy with the significance of her choice. Sarah inhaled deeply, letting the tension flow out with her breath. She knew she had faced bigger storms than Daniel's words. As she stared at the message, the haze of fear started to clear. Don't make me come over. It was a thinly veiled threat that smelled of desperation. She had given him so much power in her mind, but who would protect Emily if she shrank back now? Her resolve kicked in. She quickly typed back a response. I'm focused on my future and making decisions that will benefit Emily and me. With a decisive tap, she sent it off, feeling a surge of energy course through her veins. It was small, but it was a stand. The thrill of defiance mingled with the crushing weight of uncertainty. What if he reacted angrily? She couldn't allow the thought to linger. She had come too far to be dragged back down. This was about her and her daughter, and she resolved to answer Mrs. Jenkins' call with clarity and determination. As she left the coffee shop, the chill in the air felt invigorating, like a wake-up slap that spurred her forward. The night sky mirrored her mood, cloudy but rich with the promise of change. Would she become the leader they saw in her? Could she rise above and be the CEO of her own life? Over the next few days, she threw herself into preparation. She researched leadership strategies, watched online seminars, and practiced her confidence in front of the bathroom mirror. Each successful practice session left her feeling more empowered. The pressure was intense, yet exhilarating. Every time she questioned herself, she would picture Emily's face, her bright smile, her boundless curiosity reminding her of the larger goal: to create a life where her daughter could see her mother thriving, not merely surviving. On the day of her meeting with Mrs. Jenkins, she donned a tailored blazer that made her feel like she was stepping into a new skin. It was not just clothing. It was armor against her past. As she walked through the office, heads turned, and she felt a flicker of that internal fire igniting. Mrs. Jenkins welcomed her into the conference room, where the walls seemed to pulse with potential. The interview commenced, and the questions came flying at her thick and fast. But instead of faltering, she leaned into each challenge. With every response, she unearthed hidden leadership skills that she hadn't realized she possessed. Just as she met obstacles with commitment, she addressed her vision for the role with clarity and purpose. I see this position as an opportunity to not only lead but to inspire. My commitment will be unwavering, not just for the company but for the team to feel empowered, Sarah articulated, becoming more animated as the words flowed from her. As the meeting drew to a close, Mrs. Jenkins smiled, a glimmer of approval shining in her eyes. This sounds promising, Sarah. We'll be in touch soon. That lingering fear of Daniel slipped a notch, replaced by the thrill of possibilities. Sarah felt lighter as she stepped out of the conference room, her heart buoyant with hope. But just as she began to entertain the idea of a hopeful future, a cold wind swept through her mind, Daniel's words echoing again. What if he did come over? What if he found out? Her resolve faltered for a mere instant, teetering on the edge of vulnerability. This battle was far from over. What new challenges awaited her now, as she dared to carve out a life of her own? The stakes had risen, and she could feel the impending confrontation crowding in. She needed a plan to protect not just her dreams, but also Emily. Would she be able to forge ahead with so much uncertainty looming? Though the exhilarating moments of her interview lingered in her mind, Sarah knew she couldn't afford to lose sight of the deeper issues at play, namely, the shadows that Daniel cast over her life. She pulled in tight, drawing from her recent empowerment to devise a strategy for the looming confrontation. The following morning, sunlight streamed through the kitchen window like a promise. Sarah was preparing breakfast, her thoughts divided between Emily's cheerful laughter and the chilling possibility of a visit from Daniel. As she flipped pancakes, each sizzle resonated with decisions yet to be made. She couldn't ignore the impending threat, nor could she let it dictate her actions. "Mommy, can we go to the park later?" Emily chirped, her innocent enthusiasm a bittersweet reminder of what was at stake. Sarah turned and met her daughter's wide, hopeful eyes, feeling the weight of her responsibility surge within her. Instinctively, determination seeped back into her veins. "Sure, babe, we'll make it a fun day," she assured, but a flicker of anxiety twisted in her gut. She knew that her decision-making wasn't merely about enjoying life. It was about ensuring Emily's safety and mental well-being. After breakfast, she pulled out her notebook and pencil, a habit she embraced whenever she needed clarity. The paper welcomed her thoughts, and she began to lay out a plan. Steps she could take to confront Daniel if he appeared at her door. Each line she penned both fortified her resolve and shored up her fears. First, she would seek legal advice. The resources she found online about victims' rights gave her a measure of comfort. Ensuring Emily's safety was paramount, and establishing boundaries with Daniel was step one. She wrote down names of local lawyers who specialized in family law, her heart pounding with the enormity of the task ahead. Next, she turned her attention to Emily. Not for the first time, Sarah questioned how to discuss potential danger with her daughter. The idea of instilling fear in Emily was distasteful, but guaranteeing her safety warranted honesty even if it was age-appropriate. Sarah envisioned a conversation that would empower Emily to understand the importance of safety without instilling terror. She wasn't just preparing for what might happen. She was cultivating an environment of awareness. As she fleshed out her ideas, a firm resolve took hold. With each strategic movement, she felt her confidence restoring. Perhaps she was more capable than she ever dared to believe. The legacy she wanted to build wasn't just about employment but about fortitude in the face of challenges, just as Emily deserved to see her mother prevail against adversity. In a moment of lucidity, a thought struck her like thunder. She had not only risen to the professional challenge posed by Mrs. Jenkins but was now crafting her own narrative against all odds. She began to recognize a celestial thread weaving through her life. Every struggle meant forging a personal truth and strength, much like those of effective leaders. A hidden CEO within her had begun to emerge, propelling her forward toward a destiny no longer marred by fear. But in a flash, her phone buzzed, breaking her reverie. The contact name flashed ominously on the screen. Daniel. Heart racing, she hesitated, unsure if answering would bring construction or chaos. With a deep breath, she pushed aside her uncertainty, reminding herself of the resolve she had built. The game was shifting. It was time to confront the unwelcome player who threatened her newfound world not with weakness, but with the power of knowing what was at stake. "Hello?" She answered, her voice steadier than she felt. The words spoken on the other end twisted her heart, threatening to pull at the threads of her carefully woven determination. What awaited her on this call? Would she be able to maintain her ground amid the storm? "Sarah, we need to talk." Daniel's voice cut through the air like a knife, sharp and unexpected. Each word dripped with a dissonance she had once recognized as love but now only felt as an echo of something deeply unsettling. He had a way of making her feel as if the ground beneath her was shifting, threatening to swallow her whole. "What do you want, Daniel?" she replied, regaining her composure as the alarm bells rang louder in her head. Her strategic planning wasn't for naught. She needed to keep control in this conversation. "Is that any way to greet your husband? We have unfinished business." The underlying tone was a mix of feigned concern and arrogance, and it ignited a fire in her belly. He was attempting to gaslight her, to reclaim the narrative that she had meticulously begun rewriting. "Not anymore," she asserted, clutching the phone tightly like a lifeline. The thought of Emily in the next room fortified her courage. "I've moved on, and I am seeking what's best for our daughter. You're not part of that picture." Daniel let out a low chuckle, dismissive and contemptuous, and a shiver raced down her spine. "You think this is over? You really have no idea what I've got planned. You think it's easy to get rid of me?" The volatility in his voice transformed Sarah's nerves into a steely resolve. "I don't care what you plan. I'm prepared to do whatever it takes to protect Emily and myself." Each word was a declaration of her newfound strength, a promise she made not only to them both but also to herself. "Is that a threat?" he sneered, a challenge in his tone. "You're bluffing. Tell me, Daniel, how many times have I backed down when it mattered?" She retorted, emboldened by her clarity of purpose. It was the same conviction she had tapped into during the interview, the same spirit that allowed her to thrive in the face of adversity. She could no longer be relegated to a passive role in her own life. As her voice gathered strength, so too did the realization of her own capabilities. It was no longer just about survival, it was about flourishing. The conversation, originally designed to intimidate her, was flipping script. "Consider yourself warned," Daniel hissed before abruptly ending the call. Breathing heavily, she paced the kitchen, adrenaline coursing through her veins. The encounter was a catalyst, intensifying her resolve. But there was also an unfamiliar weight in her chest, a new responsibility to navigate the fallout of this confrontation. She still had serious groundwork to prepare to ensure that Daniel could not leverage the legal loopholes that shadowed their situation. Turning her thoughts inward, she grabbed her notebook and began outlining actionable steps. First, she needed to retain a lawyer, solidify her defense, and gather evidence of his past behavior. Each point she wrote reaffirmed her determination, providing clarity to the chaos that had invaded her life. Investing time into understanding legal rights and responsibilities became essential. She pored over articles and resources, absorbing knowledge that transformed into empowerment. She enlisted a local lawyer familiar with restraining orders and child custody battles, the words safety and boundaries ringing louder in her mind. But in the midst of this, she paused to think more deeply about the woman she wanted to become. No longer a victim, she envisioned herself as a fighter not just for herself, but for Emily. Every strategic step was a reflection of her growth, a thread knitting her over time into the person she was destined to be. She took a moment to breathe. Tomorrow would require courage. She would broach the subject of safety with Emily, crafting the words carefully so they would bolster her daughter's instinct without inciting fear. Instilling confidence required her own confidence that as she finished her notes, the bubbling determination inside her morphed into anticipation. The threads of her life had shifted. She could feel the tension building. The landscape was changing, and she was no longer a bystander. The time had come, and she wondered, not for the first time, what this new journey would demand from her. Was she truly ready to embrace this uncharted territory? She glanced at her phone again, debating whether to block Daniel's number. A mixture of anxiety and defiance swirled within her. As she contemplated her next move, she drew strength from her intent, a hidden CEO rising, no longer shackled by fear. But in her gut, an unsettling feeling rooted deeply, hinting that this was just the beginning of a drawn-out battle. Tomorrow would hold confrontation, both verbal and emotional. Would she uphold her newfound strength, or would the past catch up with her in ways she could not yet foresee? The morning light streamed into the kitchen, illuminating the half-finished notes Sarah had scribbled under the anxiety of last night's phone call. She stared at the words facts, plans, strategies, but they felt distant now, echoes of a person still transforming. The bright sun signified a fresh start, but also the weight of the confrontation awaiting her. "Mommy?" Emily's voice broke through the haze of her thoughts. The innocence in her tone pulled at Sarah's heart, grounding her in the present. "Hey, sweetie, how about breakfast?" she responded, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. The instinct to shield Emily from any chaos was instinctive and primal. Yet today, Sarah understood that it was also crucial to open a dialogue about safety. As they sat across from each other, Emily's cereal crunching in the silence, Sarah felt a strange urgency building within her. The conversations they had, the lessons on resiliency, and the discussions about trust all felt paramount now. "Emily," she started cautiously, gathering her thoughts like a puzzle, "I want to talk to you about something important." "Is it about my school project? Because I can explain the solar system more if you want," Emily replied with bright enthusiasm, tempted to revert back to childhood focus. "No, honey, it's about safety." The tone shifted in Sarah's voice. "You know how sometimes we talk about people who might make us feel scared or uncomfortable?" Emily nodded, her brow furrowing slightly. "Is it about Dad?" A wave of emotion cascaded over Sarah, but she steadied herself. "Yes, it is. I want to make sure you know that if he ever makes you feel anything less than safe, you need to tell me immediately. Your safety is the most important thing to me." The tension in the air twisted momentarily, Emily's innocence catching between the lines of Sarah's resolve and the reality of her father's potential volatility. "But he promised to come to the pizza party," Emily replied, her voice small. "Sweetheart," Sarah leaned in closer, taking Emily's hands in hers. "Sometimes, adults say things without considering how it can make others feel. But I want you to remember, if something doesn't feel right, you have to tell me. No matter what." Emily's gaze dropped, contemplating the duality of her father's nature. In that moment, Sarah's intention crystallized. She was igniting a spark of awareness within her daughter, laying groundwork for a lifetime of self-defense and empowerment. Just then, her phone buzzed against the table, and anxiety spiked like a shock wave. It was a message from Daniel, terse and taunting. "Don't forget your obligations. I will not be kept at bay." Deep breaths steadied her. The underlying threat packed a punch, but she transformed it into determination. "Mommy, are you okay?" Emily's large eyes were fixed on her, radiating concern that echoed through the room. "I'm fine, baby," Sarah assured her, forcing her resolve to harden into a shell, a protective barrier against the outside world that threatened them both. She wanted to embody strength, a fortress against turmoil. As they finished breakfast, Sarah's mind raced forward, recalling her lawyer's advice. The papers she needed to prepare, the documentation to gather, the timelines to establish, all of this would fortify her case. But it wasn't enough to just prevent a physical confrontation. It was also about breaking the emotional chains that Daniel wielded. She could no longer flinch at his mere presence. Victory meant harnessing her voice, wielding it like a weapon against manipulation. "Emily, can you help me with something later?" she inquired, a plan forming in her mind. Like what? Her daughter perked up, eager at the prospect of collaborating. Drawing out our feelings, the good ones and the bad ones. The idea thrilled Sarah, one that would not only bond them but also empower Emily to understand the nuances of their reality. After breakfast, Sarah devoted her time to pour energy into her work, poring over legal articles while brainstorming emotional scripts that could foster open discussions with Emily. She engrossed herself in research like a historian unearthing treasures, and amidst the chaos, she found glimpses of her empowerment. Was she truly becoming the woman she envisioned? The strength felt both intoxicating and terrifying, creating ripples of doubt within her psyche. The challenges ahead mirrored her internal landscape, a series of confrontations with her past and monumental growth toward her future. As she pieced everything together, strategizing multiple contingencies, she felt the shift within herself. It was a transformation echoing in the depths of her being, a jagged journey toward resilience. The urgency to reclaim her narrative surged with each passing moment. What other revelations awaited her on this foggy road forward? Would she discover capabilities buried long ago, perhaps still awakening from the ashes of her past? In that moment, she resolved to face whatever loomed on the horizon, knowing it would be a test of everything she had fought for. She steeled herself. She was not just any mother. She was rising. Would the day bring clarity, or would it serve as a crucial turning point in this unyielding battle? After coordinating breakfast and piecing together her thoughts, Sarah felt the day's urgency wrap around her like a cloak. After a deep breath, she turned her focus to the stack of paperwork that lay ominously on her kitchen table, a constant reminder of the looming confrontation. The documents represented months of silent struggles and painful encounters, symbolizing both her past with Daniel and the future she was determined to reclaim. Opening her laptop, she dove headfirst into the state guidelines for protective orders and custody arrangements. Each click of the mouse a moment spent fortifying her resolve. Every article dissected felt like a much-needed thread pulling together a frayed tapestry of her life, and with every word, she unearthed a determination far deeper than she had ever known. Midway through one legal document, a glaring realization pierced through her focus. Her legal knowledge had been minimal, yet in this atmosphere of pressure and stakes, Sarah had morphed into an astute learner. The adaptiveness she once craved as a child now produced in her a burgeoning confidence. Strangely enough, the person Daniel had often belittled was the very one capable of transforming vulnerability into power. As she gathered her notes, a plan began to take shape. The idea of scheduling a meeting with her lawyer felt more like an assertion rather than a necessity, but it was imperative. Each piece of information she captured could either bolster her case or provide leverage in her dealings with Daniel. Embracing the discomfort began to feel less daunting, transitioning into a source of strength. Checking the clock, Sarah realized time was ticking away faster than expected. She called out to Emily, who had retreated into the sanctuary of her room. "Let us start our staying safe project," Sarah encouraged. With Emily trotting into the kitchen, Sarah unfurled a blank sheet of paper before them, sensing the gravity of their shared task. "This is our feelings chart, where we can express the good and the bad," Sarah explained, excitement mingling with trepidation. She wanted Emily to embrace honesty while explaining the necessity of safeguarding her emotions. Together, they began to fill the paper with drawings, words, and even stick figures expressing joy, fear, and confusion. Emily's creativity shone through as she illustrated a sun smiling warmly beside a large stick figure labeled Mom. When it came time to depict fear, however, Emily paused, her small fingers hovering over the canvas. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" Sarah prompted gently. "I don't want to draw that," Emily admitted, vulnerability revealing the weight of the conversation. Understanding that every detail mattered, Sarah knelt beside her, firm yet gentle. "It's okay to feel scared. If we label those feelings, they become a little less scary. We can think of ways to handle them together." Emily nodded slowly, taking a deep breath that signaled a shift in her internal struggle. Her pencil scratched against the paper as she tentatively started to illustrate a shadowy figure with jagged edges. Each stroke was cathartic for Sarah, as she mirrored her daughter's exploration. The act of expressing their shared feelings began dissolving the walls of fear built from years of silence. The empowerment bloomed in their little corner, creating an unshakable bond fortified with trust. As they held up the finished chart, pride sparked something potent within Sarah. She thought of how near she was to standing her ground and confronting Daniel, prepared to protect not only herself but the only thing that truly mattered, Emily's well-being. An unexpected notification buzzed on her phone, drawing her attention. With a glance at the screen, Sarah's heart sank. It was Daniel, words laced with threats and reminder obligations. She inhaled deeply, steeling herself against feelings of panic. That moment sparked a realization: every taunt and challenge could be transformed into a catalyst for action. She had a choice: to respond with fear or resolve. Today is a day of commitment, not retreat, she whispered to herself as her resolve crumpled Daniel's hold over her further. Gathering herself, Sarah decided to draft a respectful but firm response. Each word she crafted was no longer dictating her vulnerability. They were articulating newfound power. As the sun set, washing the room in hues of defiance and resilience, Sarah looked at Emily. Tomorrow, we'll go to the lawyer's office together. This will be our first real step. Emily's eyes sparkled with trust, a silent pledge that they could tackle the future as a unit. But just as Sarah felt the weight of early victories slowly shifting, her phone vibrated again, a new message demanding attention. With heart racing, Sarah's attention shifted back to the screen. Who could it be? Would it be support or a warning? The apprehension tightened in her chest, and she steeled herself against whatever awaited her next. As she leaned closer to read, she felt the palpable weight of uncertainty returning, both curious yet terrified of the unknown twist that lay ahead. The screen illuminated Sarah's anxious expression with another terse message from Daniel, but this time it was different. Gone were the direct threats. Instead, the words danced around her vulnerabilities, twisting them like a knife in her gut. He had invoked their shared history and injected a new threat of litigation, designed to unsettle her resolve. For a moment, doubt clawed at her, threatening to unearth old insecurities. She inhaled deeply, recognizing that this was not merely a battle for custody. It was a test of her resilience. It was as though Daniel recognized the metamorphosis she had undergone, and in response, he sought to hold her back. Yet this made her even more determined. For the next 30 minutes, she anticipated that her response would set the tone for their next interaction. She started typing a draft, each sentence deliberate and powerful, echoing the empowerment she had begun to cultivate. "I won't be intimidated by your threats," she wrote. "I am prepared to stand firm in what I believe is best for Emily." The process was cathartic. The glaring truth began to illuminate her path. Writing was quickly becoming her powerful ally. With each word, she acknowledged her fears, transforming them into assertions of strength. She felt ready to face him, not as the victim she once was, but as someone possessing competence and clarity. After sending the message, Sarah recalled her meeting with the lawyer from the previous week. She had sat nervously in the office, skimming through pages that solidified her case. But today, she didn't want to be merely a participant in her destiny. She wanted to drive it. Back then, she had been a passive vessel for advice, and the uncertainty that filled that space felt different now. With a plan forming, Sarah decided to harness the momentum from their feelings chart. She planned to present it at the meeting, not just as an emotional tool but as a vital piece of evidence displaying her commitment to Emily's emotional well-being. It was a tangible representation of their shared strength, one that could both humanize their situation and help convey why she deserved to protect their future together. "Let us build our case," Sarah said aloud. Reflecting on the appeal, she could make an appeal grounded in genuine love and determination. It was time to cement that connection into something unstoppable. She felt a spark of excitement as she thought about crafting a narrative that encompassed more than just legal guidelines. It portrayed their journey, fears, and the path they had chosen together. The next morning, they arrived at the lawyer's office, hand in hand. Emily, buoyed by their previous night's discussion, expressed her eagerness to take part. In a realm where fear often ruled, here they breathed a different air. It was filled with possibility. As they recounted their fears using the feelings chart, Sarah began to marvel at how far they had come. From silent suffering to articulating their truth together, it marked a profound shift. The lawyer leaned back, impressed, seeing the resilience that radiated from both mother and daughter. But as the meeting drew to a close, Sarah's phone buzzed once more. This time, it was an email notification from Daniel's attorney outlining demands that sent a chill through her. In that moment, the intensity crept back. The time had come to face the music, Sarah thought, a wave of anxiety crashing over her. But within that tremor lay an unassailable conviction. She would no longer be painted into a corner. The upward climb was steep, and with every step, the stakes became progressively higher. Would she rise to meet the developing challenges? As she stared at Emily's determined little face, Sarah knew one thing. She wouldn't back down. The confrontation awaited her, and she was ready. The next chapter of her life was beginning, and with it, it felt as if everything hung in balance. What awaited her would either fortify her resolve or push her into uncharted territory, riddled with uncertainty. But that was the essence of transformation, embracing the unknown, however terrifying it may be. Where would this next wave bring her and Emily? Would they truly stand together in this fight, or would the shadows of the past creep back in to seize their future? The room buzzed with a tense energy as Sarah sat across from her lawyer, Maria, who studied Daniel's latest demands with furrowed brows. The fluorescent lights seemed harsh, almost mocking the seriousness of the situation. But Sarah refused to let the weight of it consume her. Instead, she focused on the rhythmic tapping of Emily's fingers on the tabletop, a reminder that she was here for more than just herself. Inhaling deeply, she shifted her attention to the feelings chart spread between them, a vivid tapestry of emotions and insights. It provided her with a structure, something tangible to ground herself in this chaos. This chart highlights our progress, Maria, she pointed out passionately. It's not just a collection of feelings. It shows our journey. This is what I want to present, my commitment to Emily's well-being. Maria nodded, impressed. Yes, Sarah. This can help paint a picture of your involvement as a mother. It showcases the nurturing environment you've built. This realization sparked something within Sarah. She had been working so hard to reframe her circumstances that she had overlooked her evolving role in Emily's life. I am more than just a mother fighting for custody. I'm a woman redefining what support and stability look like in our lives, she thought, a wave of satisfaction washing over her. But then, Daniel's authoritative demands lurked in her mind, a shadow creeping back in. They were unreasonable, designed to intimidate and disrupt the progress she fought to achieve. What if she faltered under the weight of them? The thought curled around her insides like a vice. Let us break this down, Maria suggested, pulling Sarah back from the spiral of doubt. What's your priority right now? Winning this custody case? Or ensuring Emily has a stable environment? Both, Sarah shot back, adrenaline coursing through her. But more than that, I want to prove to Emily that we can overcome challenges together. She needs to see me as a role model, someone who will confront obstacles head-on. That's important, Maria agreed, her tone encouraging. Your determination is your strength. Don't lose sight of it. Let us strategize how we can showcase that strength. They spent the next hour creating a tactical plan, weaving through the legal stipulations and turning every demand into an opportunity to demonstrate her growth. Sarah began to see the legal machinations in front of her as instruments for her emancipation rather than shackles anchoring her to her past. Each decision she made resonated with strength, shaping not only the case but her very identity. But as they finalized their approach, another message appeared on Sarah's phone, a brief but biting taunt from Daniel. You truly think you can win this? You don't know the lengths I'll go to. It clawed at her composure, stirring the old fears that she believed she had buried. The urge to respond defensively was strong, a primal instinct that urged it was time to fight fire with fire. She paused, deliberating, considering her words carefully. How would they reflect the woman she was becoming? Take a breath, Sarah, she whispered to herself. Use this as fuel, not anxiety. Just as she was about to let the message go, the door opened, revealing a man in a sharp suit, the opponent's attorney. He exuded confidence, a professional armor that made Sarah's heart race. She shifted uneasily but steadied herself, remembering why she was there. This confrontation was more than a legal battle. It was an opportunity to reclaim her narrative, to step into the power she had always possessed but never recognized. Each word exchanged in this environment could amplify her commitment to Emily, and with that thought, her resolve hardened. As the attorney approached, a sly smile crept across his face, and Sarah prepared to confront what could very well be the turning point of her fight. Would she continue to forge her pathway towards autonomy and integrity, or would Daniel's influence continue to overshadow her? The pulse of the moment charged through her. The outcome now felt uncertain, but she was ready to meet the challenge, whatever it may bring. The stakes couldn't be higher. This was not just a test of legality, but a test of self. What she would learn from this confrontation remained veiled, awaiting its revelation. As Sarah walked into the office that morning, the air charged with an electric tension. She felt an indomitable determination surging within her. Today was not just another meeting. Today was the day she would lay out her vision for the future, both hers and Emily's. The previous weeks had transformed her from a victim into a warrior, and the empowerment coursing through her veins solidified every step she took. Seated in the conference room, surrounded by legal documents, she glanced instinctively at Emily, who was busy coloring a drawing they had made together, a drawing that represented their journey. The rainbow of hope and resilience captured in those colors whispered promises of what they were fighting for. Sarah's heart swelled as clarity purged any lingering self-doubt. The opposing attorney began his litany, each word an attempt to undermine her resolve. You believe you can support your daughter as a single mother while taking on more responsibilities at work? He questioned, sarcasm dripping from his voice. Sarah felt the weight of his words, but instead of feeling crushed, they ignited her inner fire. I not only believe it, but I am also living it, she replied firmly, standing taller as a wave of validation washed over her. I've balanced 2 jobs, pursued my education, and fostered an environment of learning and love for my daughter every single day. This, she gestured toward the colorful drawing, is proof of our journey, a testament to our growth. The room fell silent, and she could see the flicker of surprise in his eyes. She had turned an attempt to belittle her into an opportunity to showcase the depth of her commitment. As they continued through the meeting, she dominated the conversation, showcasing her planning, research, and emotional reinforcement for Emily. With each point she made, she rebutted the opposing claims with a steadfast foundation of evidence and documentation. Sarah's passion radiated, demonstrating not just her legal knowledge but a solid understanding of her identity. It was transformative. She was no longer merely reacting to the past. She was crafting a future. Your Honor, said her lawyer, Maria, as they collectively approached the judge, a shift in Sarah's demeanor exuding confidence. We request a protective order because the emotional well-being of the child is paramount. This is supported not just by legal precedents but by Sarah's active involvement in Emily's development. Sarah stood by, pride swelling within her chest as clarity pierced through the fog. She was finally where she needed to be with her voice, her choices, and an unwavering commitment to her daughter. After weeks of battling her insecurities, that moment crystallized everything she had fought to achieve. The opposing attorney's tone softened as they presented their case, a recognition of Sarah's undeniable metamorphosis. The judge, too, absorbed the trajectory of Sarah's transformation, nodding subtly as the gravity of her role as a mother unfurled like a banner. When the session concluded, and the gavel echoed through the chamber, Sarah felt a sense of completion wash over her. The judge ruled in her favor, granting her not only increased custody but acknowledgement of her capability as a mother. As she walked out of the courthouse, Emily's hand in hers, a feeling of invincibility enveloped her. The challenges ahead no longer loomed like shadows. They were now hills to climb, thrilling races to tackle. Mommy? Emily chimed, breaking her reverie. Did we win? Yes, sweetheart. We did, Sarah responded, exhaling a nervous laugh. The joy shining in her daughter's eyes confirmed that this victory was more than just legal, it was profound personal growth. In that moment, Sarah understood that this was not merely about fighting the past but about seizing her present and preparing for the future. She wasn't just a survivor. She was a leader and embodiment of resilience, clarity, and courage. With each step they took towards their car, she felt a renewed sense of purpose bloom in her heart. She had conquered the invisible chains of self-doubt, and in doing so had proven herself worthy not just in the eyes of others but in her own. The CEO inside her had finally emerged, strong and unyielding, ready to navigate whatever life threw her way. As they drove home, a sense of invigoration coursed through Sarah. "Remember this day, Emily. This is just the beginning," she whispered to herself. Sarah knew she had achieved tangible and intangible victories. She had secured her position not just as a protector but as an inspiration for her daughter. Each goal she had set in motion opened doors to a future she had only dared to dream of before. Now, she was living her ambition, and every step she took from here on out would only ever reinforce that journey forward. Those resilient moments of transformation were a testament to a single mother's courage, and she was ready to embrace her calling. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share.